Welcome to the Cherry Podcast, and today we'll be talking about discrimination in the world globally. Discrimination in the workplace, discrimination in everyday life, discrimination in public authorities, corrupted governments, and so on. So, first off, I'd like to discuss actually the issues that arise through discrimination, which forms of discrimination is racism, which is judgment through color, stereotypes through color. And it is a very largely known issue, a widely known issue in the world, where many people face it when trying to apply for a job or trying to get into university. There are few institutions and workplaces out there that actually do have racist judgments on applicants. And so I feel that there are many people that struggle with this. Like, you can see it on the internet a lot of times, that there are people who are complaining about this situation. And, I really feel that we should try to be more diverse with each other. We should try to understand with each other. In my case, I was born in the UAE, where there's many people who come from many different places. America, in Europe, they come from Australia, they come from all over the Middle East, India especially. Sometimes maybe in Korea they also come. It's a very diverse place. There are many people that actually come to the UAE due to family reasons or movement of work or whatever. And because of that, there has been a very diverse community within schools, within workplaces, within like college and other sources, you could say. And people are very open with each other. People are very accepting of each other, which is like really an amazing thing if you think about it. There's like equality for everyone in some base, not economically, but socially. There's an equality going for everyone. And in today's modern society, or governments, countries, and leaders are trying to make sure that there's an equality policy for everyone to prevent this discrimination from actually hindering other people's progresses in terms of education or their careers. And the fact that this discrimination is there shows that there are so many people out there who are just unfortunate in these situations, which is like, it doesn't even define why exactly. It's just for no reason they are cut off from doing what they want. And it's not only racism, it's also gender inequality, where if you're a male, you are viewed to be a more efficient worker, viewed to be a more appropriate figure for the role. That was a traditional view in the past. In the 19th, 20th century, this was very common for people to look into. But nowadays, there are many situations where females would be more dominant in work, yet they receive less salaries. And so not every company follows and abides by this social law of treating everyone equally, treating every gender equally, every color equally. There are some companies and organizations that still keep it traditional by discriminating people for who they are and their cultures, their identities, and traditions, religion. All these things have come into play. Now, when we have a diverse community, when we have a very less rate of discrimination shown in like overall country perspective rather than economic stuff, because economics is a completely different story when you're talking about equality and equity, which is not something we want to get into. We're trying to look into the social view. Last week's podcast was talking about poverty in a very global, broad view. But when we talk about equality and discrimination and how that's not really like, there's still places that doesn't accept people for where they come from and who they are, and maybe also what they do. There are many cases that people have faced that situation, even in modern world today. However, it isn't as bad as the 20th century or the 19th century or 18th century, because now in modern society, there's actually a lot of changes to countries, policies, societal views, norms, and expectations. There's a lot of changes with all the culture shocks and mass implementations of social view. Many of us know about the big change in gender perspective for equality and how it's gone out of hand sometimes. And we also know that there's a lowering rate of racism, but I think that racism is like the most dominant discriminative view, if you understand what I mean. And to break it down simply, all I'm trying to say is in discrimination, racism is actually the sub-theme of discrimination that is running dominant in the world. Because racism can come from many perspectives and aspects, like it can come from our traditions, it can come from our culture, our history with other countries and relationships with people. It can come from our perspectives, from what we intake from media, and also environmental intakes. And what I mean by environmental intakes is how your family would view other people that are different from you. If they were to treat them differently because of physical differences, then that is something that clearly links to discrimination, and you as a person growing up would think that would be completely fine. And so that would just add on to the people that actually follow that same trend, which isn't really going to make the world a better place. It will make it a worse place if you look at it fairly. But if everything were to be equal, in a way that not everything is perfectly equal, there are some boundaries to it. If everything were to be equal in terms of people's treatments for who they are, then I think the world would be a so much better place, you know? Like, it's a very general understanding, and I think that a lot of people would say, of course, yeah, it would. But I feel that that isn't taken into practice at all. It's just a view that is said as, yeah, we should follow that. We should be less discriminative of each other. But I feel that that doesn't really happen. You know, we don't really apply it to how we talk to other people, and we may even say racist remarks without even knowing it. A solution to this problem would most probably revolve around trying to change your environment, your perspective towards all this discriminative things. You really have to limit yourself from saying impulsive thoughts that are discriminative, that are relate completely to discrimination. Even as a joke, you need to like cut it off, because it's not just you who says it and knows what's happening. It's also the people around you that take effect of what you do. Psychologically speaking, if younger groups of people were to look at you and say and see that you are saying racist slurs, you are saying racist remarks, gender remarks, like how men are always better, women are useless. If you say things like that, the younger group of people would take in consideration that, oh, that's normal, I can say that now. And then later on they would refer to that and they would think that's normal. And then there's no change in actually discriminative remarks, racist remarks, gender remarks. None of that would change, because people would grow up in an environment where they are constantly thinking that it is okay. That was okay all the way back in the traditional times when all of this was happening, with all colonies taken over by countries, people who migrated to other countries to, you know, get a job, get a life, get a work and everything. They were also discriminated to because of where they came from, their ethnicity, their color, their gender. They were all discriminated for those small things, which really put a whole stampede to, which really created a stampede to overcome for these people. I myself am an Indian, and there are a lot of stereotypes in the world that go around as a joke. However, there are certain individuals that take the joke to another level and actually be very racist about it. It can personally attack someone for who they are, and if at a young age, when you're exposed to such discrimination, there can be people who just don't want to like be part of that identity that they were originally part of. It would all these remarks and these slurs that people would just make them feel less confident about who they are, and their culture, they want to less relate to it, and it really destroys the beauty of culture within someone's country. For me, I have not really experienced a mass serious amount of discrimination. So in my case, I'm in a very comfortable zone where I can be diverse and tolerant with everyone. Everyone's tolerant with me because I came from a society or a community where everyone is open to each other. They're not really discriminative to each other. Everyone's really nice and equal with each other, and nothing is really wrong. However, there are still jokes that happen when in relation to me being Indian. It's funny at first, but the effect of saying such things can just lead to worse consequences for other groups, for the third parties that see this, which is not right when you think that, oh, I want to make the world a better place, but all you're doing is just making it worse if you continue to say it like jokes. Even if you don't mean it, even if you mean it like unserious, other people don't view the same thing as you. So we need to limit ourselves into what we're saying. We need to think twice about what we're saying and be cautious about what we're saying, because other people's lives are affected by your actions. Even if you believe it or not, it happens. I really don't know how to put it into words, like, it really happens. Like, some people do look up to you, even though you don't know, even though you don't feel like anyone's gonna look up to you. Younger people or people around you will look at it like it's normal, so we can do it. And in future terms, in the long term, nothing really is going to change then if it just continues, because even in traditional views, racist remarks, slurs, and jokes were taken as jokes at first amongst a group of people who have common interests, and then after that, when they actually come across these type of people, they burst out. They burst out with their impulsive thoughts. They burst out with their opinions about these type of people that face discrimination. And this not only works in a very social view, this also works in the workplace. When trying to apply for a job, people are rejected for being just different. And that's not right. We want to really change that perspective. So I hope this podcast really just told you, or taught you at least that if we were to think twice about what we said, even if it's as a joke, maybe we can make a world a better place. Maybe we can actually change something. And I feel like in modern society, it's not much of a serious topic now because it's actually becoming like it's changing. However, it's still present. And that too, it's present at a level where it's concerning, but not as concerning during the traditional times, which is a good thing. And I just feel like in every individual's life, they should just take into consideration what they think before they say it. And I think it's a mature thing to do as well. It's a mature part of life where you actually realize that you should hold back at what you say. You should really consider what you say, So I hope this podcast really just gave you that insights about other people's perspectives, how discrimination affects them, and how your little jokes can turn into a mass chain effect where other people are just affected by you because you affected some person you didn't know, some third party that took into consideration, oh, that's normal. And then future time when they grow up, they actually say it themselves. They view it themselves in the way you say it, even though it was a joke. And so yeah, just think twice about what you say, and try to make the world a better place by adapting to what's around you. Take into perspective their cultures, their identities as people, and don't treat them like objects. Treat them like actual people. They are genuine people who are like you. They are human. They live and experience the same form of life, not type, because everyone's born differently, of course, but they experience the same form of life. They're human. They breathe air. There's nothing really different. But don't let that mean that you don't have an identity. No. I'm actually promoting that you have an identity, stick to your identity, and mature with it. That's the beauty of life in the form that you accept society, you accept people. It is beautiful. You just have to put it into practice and everything will change. Thank you for listening to my podcast.